Well, good morning. About 7:30 in the morning, 20 degrees outside. Sun's just starting to come up and hit the greenhouse. Just want to show you a couple things that haven't done much lately, but I've got a few things done. Got some dirt piled around the sides here to cover up the front. And this is about the level I'm going to have it at, so this is good. And just kind of screed it off the top to make it level with a little 2x4. That's going to compact and settle over time, and I'm going to have to add more dirt, of course. Let's go inside here and see what's going on. Yeah, definitely warmer in here. So one of the things I wanted to do and just show you, we've talked a lot about how the sun in the winter shines in. If you've watched my previous videos, how it shines in when the sun is lower in the sky and hits these tires and warms them. And they've gotten 130, 135, 150 degrees, over 150 degrees a couple times. That's pretty hot. You can barely touch them. But what are the temperatures of the tires like when it's cold, or when the sun hasn't shone on them since yesterday evening or last night? We did have a sunny day yesterday, so let's just see what they're like when the sun hasn't shone on them for, well, since 7 last night, or even earlier than that. And so it's been over 12 hours. And so 65 degrees there, 65 there, 65 there. And so the sun, of course, rises in the east over here, sets in the west. So these tires over here got most of the evening sun. These tires over here got no evening sun. So these tires have actually been out of the sun the longest because they face east. And let's just see where they're at. 64.5. 65. So they're basically the same temperature, which is pretty crazy to me that these, of course, this is the whole idea of thermal mass. This is why it works. And Mike Reynolds talks about this, how once your thermal mass, your stabilizing mass reaches kind of a constant temperature, it's going to hold that temperature, and then it's going to re-radiate it back into the room as the ambient temperature of the room cools off, and will keep the room warm. Now, what's the temperature in here right now? My actual indoor thermometer is up here. I mean, the one that I have that has a screen in here. And of course, it's up here in the top, which is probably a tiny bit warmer than it is down low. It says 61. Okay, so 61 from 20 degrees is 41 degrees warmer than the outside temperature. So one of the things I did get started on was the shelf. My wife wanted me to build a shelf around the top so that she could put potted plants on, not pot plants, but potted plants, and then just have them be able to, drape down or whatever, come down the walls. Also for some storage. And my original plan was to just use this metal lath and screw it to the top of the tire bales, because nothing about tire bales is straight, right? So if you want something straight, you got to make it happen. So I was going to screw those to the top, fold them over, and just wrap them around, screw them along here, and then just spread concrete and just have that round look and just have it kind of follow the contours of the tire bales. And I think she's right. I think the shelf's a good idea. It'll give us a little more storage space, and some plants that don't necessarily need this, I guess, any sun, or because they won't get any sun up there. And it is wonky. I started to spend a lot of time trying to make it nice and straight. It's fairly straight, but once we get a concrete layer on it, it's probably not going to be super noticeable. I just used this leftover, I had a bunch of this leftover, I forget what this is called, and I just used it on the top instead of using the wire lath on the top, because it just really needs to just kind of hold the concrete. It's really not supporting it like on a vertical wall. So we'll of course spread cement along here, have it come over the bond beam, have it come over this, and then have it come over this wire lath as well. The shelf I just used, made it out of OSB. I did make some blocks. You can kind of see one there, and there's every couple feet there's some blocks. And this is just leftover scrap wood. And I put 5-inch decking screws through those from the top, through the OSB, through those blocks and into the tire bales. So that gives it some support in the back. In the front here, I just cut all these at 45 degrees, and it's not exact exact angle. fit, but it's enough to kind of give it a little bit more contact surface with the tires. And then a 4-inch decking screw in the front, and then 2-inch decking screws in the top, 2 of those. So that's what's holding up the front, and it's very sturdy. It's very strong. So that's the shelf, that's the wrap, and then I'm going to put the wire lath around like this. This wire lath has little, it's sort of twisted the way they make it. I don't know if this will come out, but that little shelf right there at the edge of my fingernail, you want it where it's sloping back and not sloping out, so that your concrete actually flows backwards against your wall. And of course, some of this isn't going to be against the wall, and that's okay, but as a general rule, that's the way you want to orient it, so that it catches your concrete. If it tries to sag, it won't sag and slide out on you. It'll sag and slide back and hopefully hit whatever walls it's against. So that'll save some of your concrete. I am not going to fill the back of this right here. This is just going to be a little concrete wall. I'm not going to fill the back of it with rocks, okay, along this top edge. Along the middle edge and then the bottom edge, I'm going to fill it with rocks, though. So this isn't going to be sun-contacted thermal mass at all. But midway down, it is going to be, and at the bottom, it's going to be. So I want this kind of effect. So as I put this metal lath up like this and I work my way down, I'm going to be backfilling it as best I can with broken pieces of concrete or gravel, that kind of thing. Okay, and that'll just kind of minimize the air pockets and maximize my thermal mass and my contact with the cement wall, between the cement wall and the tire bales themselves. Okay, because I want those to be in direct contact as much as possible to transfer the sun's heat to the tire bales. Once we get the concrete wall on. Here's a little example of what the concrete wall looks like. I just did a little trial just to see how this would work in this corner. And so right there you can see the metal lath comes around behind here. And so this wall, this is just 3 parts sand to 1 part Portland cement. And I just mixed it up in a bucket a couple times and just kind of spread it on with the trowel, and then used that little rake thing to make a scratch coat. And I haven't put the second layer on. I just want to see how this would go and what it looks like, and it's actually very strong and very solid. You can see where I backfilled it right here with gravel. I've tried to fill some holes down here with gravel as well. This is just kind of I was just playing around with it to see how it worked, and I'm pretty excited because this is actually going to be pretty easy. I didn't have a good concept of how this was going to go, but now that I've done it, it's going to go pretty easy. So the wire lath I'm just screwing in with 2-inch screws and some fender washers. Okay. So that's what that looks like. Just a quick look at the plants. The plants done planted February 6th. They're actually getting pretty big. This is the chard and the kale. So it's getting pretty tall. And the broccoli is actually just really starting to grow quickly. Spinach is coming up nicely. This was planted just a couple weeks ago. And what was this basil? It smells so good. It's just starting to come up. The tomatoes are getting a little bit bigger. Only a couple peppers popped up. We have, I don't know, and there's some other stuff. I'm not going to go through everything that's growing here, but this is kind of cool. These blueberry plants we bought over a week ago, and they didn't have any leaves. They just had kind of a couple of bumps on them here and there. And now they have leaves, and they have some buds. It's kind of cool. We put these planters across the front just to get some starters going here that are in the sun. And so there's some okra here. This one really hasn't taken off very much. This is Bib lettuce, and there's only a couple of them in here. Only 3 of the peas came up. We were using some old seeds that we were just trying to see if they would still work. And here's some onion. There's a lot of those that are starting to come up. So that's kind of cool. Over here is just some parsley and thyme and sage. So that's where the plants are. A lot of things have started to come up there that she's planted a little bit later. Some haven't come up yet that she's just planted more recently. This is just a bunch of flowers that she's planted for outdoor decoration plants, whatever you call those. And so these are just starters in here. So kind of cool. It is working. Again, March 10th, or I'm sorry, March 16th today. And 20 degrees outside, which is still 12 degrees below freezing. And the plants are doing well in here. And it's getting up to the mid 90s to upper 90s with that temperature sensor up there in the top there. And it's about 5 degrees cooler down here in the bottom. So it's still hitting the mid 80s and low 90s down here when we get full sun all day. So the plants are liking it. Yeah,